to kill, the breeze cut, freeze up, straight dropping the chills. I'm talking taking over pieces and shares. A bomb break sky high, check the movement is here. Yeah, it's one heart, one shot, now the future is yours. Go! Turning dreams into reality. In the lab with the formula and chemistry. Your memories spark and motivate and make the industry shake. We put the bars in the brakes. I'm talking one chance at best, yes. Painting pictures for the culture, keep the brushes fresh. Flip the cover with the drummer, passion never rests. Freedom is our teacher under pressure, now we blessed. See, I was so good for the go. There's one art, one shot, now the future is yours. Go! Yeah. It's one art, one shot, now the future is yours. Go!
Yo!
I was about to say, like, where'd you go? Where'd you go?
I was just hiding. It's about the dramatic entrance, Paul. You should know that, right?
You gotta have the dramatic entrance. That's nice.
I also realized I had my phone's audio on, so
Your phone, yeah, it always messes with your headphones, doesn't it?
a little bit.
Always shakes it up.
It's the bummer of using MacBook or Mac products and AirPods with like multiple devices. It keeps wanting to sync to the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Yep. So yeah, it's been a fun afternoon. Spent a good part of yesterday shoveling. Another big part of today plowing driveway. We had some snow this weekend, Paul.
You had some snow?
Yeah. I don't know why I said weekend. It's been a little bit. We had like a 48-degree day and then snow the next day, and like it's 10 degrees. It's crap. We call that fool's spring here, and
it's getting warm again in Florida, and I'm about to have to wear short sleeve shirts and shorts every single day. Yeah. And I got a new job where I have to wear like long pants every day now and like a button-up shirt. So I'm gonna miss wearing t-shirts to work next week. Yeah. What's up, Brad Henderson and Brad Fogel? The Brads are in the house today. Oh man. So tonight I figured it's just gonna be a free reign. You know, we're gonna talk about whatever comes to mind: drones, Sony cameras, gear, lenses, YouTube questions, tips, tricks, whatever. Anybody got anything they want answered? It's like a big hangout tonight. Just we're sitting around
We'll just say it this way, Paul. Everyone that wants to watch is our guest tonight.
Everyone that's watching is our guest tonight. That's right.
So
we might even have a guest. Throw some secret guests in. I don't know.
It's always fun when that happens, actually.
I like doing that. Maybe we might have to do that tonight. Who knows? Jared Spink, what's up? I think we have. I need to remember that we have to show all these. Oh, I just hit it. Yeah, we have this. Jared Spink is going to be a guest here pretty soon, so excited about that. One of our first guests kicking off the creator camp. I say one. Yeah. I think he's like what, number 2, 3? I don't know.
Yeah. So I mean, let's just kind of cut to the chase on that real quick, Paul. Creator camp is starting very soon. We are setting up all of our calendar right now for our guests, which is sometimes a little fun to do. Like everyone, we're waiting on people to basically solidify dates. Is kind of what it is. So I think right now we're looking at maybe 2 weeks away. Paul, does that sound right?
We are 2 weeks away, or at least right now, unless somebody else books it next week,
Yeah.
we're planning on going, our first guest is Chris Brockhurst in 2 weeks from now.
Yep.
And are we doing that at the normal time, or are we doing it 30 minutes early for him?
I think we're doing it at 8:00 for him because he's got to go to bed.
Yeah, he said that he like his bedtime is like what, 9:00?
Something like
9
that.
o'clock Central Time? Is that what it is?
Yeah. No problem. No big deal. I'm a night owl, man. I go to bed at like 2 in the morning, even if I have to wake up and go to work at 8. That's just how I do.
Oh, Brad Fogel, that the debate with Gerald, the Gerald Undone saga, I don't really want to go there. That's a bunch of negative stuff.
I don't understand the debate at all. There's no debate.
I mean, the problem is people are going to hate whether you do one thing or the other on YouTube when you're that big as Gerald Undone. You can't please anybody. And
Yep.
it's a weird fine line to jump on, because you're like, on one hand, they're like, all you're doing is selling me stuff. And then when you tell them the truth, on the other hand, it's like, oh, well, that's the camera brand that I like. You can't bash that. You are
Yep.
so biased. You can't. It's like, but
I kind of find it kind of hilarious because it's like if there's one person that's not trying to sell you something, usually it's Jared Undone. If he wanted to sell you
right.
something, he would try to put like 8 items, 10 items in his videos. He usually goes on for a, half hour on charts and diagrams about full tests, and he's just someone who I think is kind of in a neutral basis, like bias of doing everything you could possibly want to know about a camera that no one else wants to talk about.
That's what I think is really funny. He's known for, and camera companies know this. That's why they all, no matter what company you are, they always send him this stuff, because he's not really gonna bash the product. He's not gonna give it high praise. He's just literally going to tell you about the product and how it was made and designed. Everybody knows that if you're thinking about buying a camera or anything, before you buy it, you always watch Gerald Undone's video, because he's going to be like the least biased. He's literally going to test all the little features that
Mhm.
nobody else will, and then tell you how it performs.
Yep.
That's all he's doing. It's not like he's like it's all science. That's Gerald Undone is just like Bill Nye the science guy for YouTube gear. There you go.
Yeah, it's and people are like, "Oh, you're just a Sony guy," and it's like I don't think people realize he's a Blackmagic user. He used to use the GH5 and GH4 for years.
I mean,
Like if
I
anyone,
think he
I
would
don't
have.
know.
I think he was wanting the Panasonic just to have autofocus, and he could have been tempted to switch back to his roots, but he,
Yeah, I personally think he's one of the more first users of like the Micro Four Thirds, like YouTube wise, and I don't know. It's
anyway.
just he says what he wants to say because he's just being like honest about his reviews, and that's some people don't like honesty. That's and I think a lot of the people who are Sony shooters were like, "Oh, how dare you say this camera's good because it's a piece of junk. It doesn't have autofocus." And then all the other people are same deal. So
Jared asked us if we are still doing the alpha shot or we're just doing the creator camp. And the answer to that is no, I don't think. Pretty much what the alpha shot was kind of like my little quick name for a stream that I want to do, originally based around camera gear, Sony camera gear and stuff like that, with other stuff sprinkled in. And then I invited Kyle on, and then we kind of discussed we want to do the creator camp. So I think if I do a alpha shot stream, it's not going to be like a regular scheduled thing. It would be like a
yeah.
random thing. Like maybe if there's a Sony camera announcement and I'm doing a live stream in the middle of the week just to go over the specs of this new camera, that's probably what the alpha shot will be turned into. And it'll be pretty much more like my own personal live stream and creator camp is going to be more of Kyle and I's baby, if you will.
Mhm. I mean, that's not to say that if we have a week we don't have a guest, but we still want to do a stream, then maybe we can just call that something else. Like, I don't know, something to do with camp. I don't know.
We're both creators, so it
Yeah.
could still be creator
Yeah.
camp. It would just
Yeah.
be
Sure.
you're my guest this week, Kyle.
Sure.
I'm saving you to be my guest. I'm saving you. We have 2 guests right here that we can just throw in on any week.
Right.
Just and
Yeah.
I mean I got a handful. I think it'd be kind of cool. I've toyed with the idea of maybe even getting creators that are not necessarily based around cameras, right? Just get
That's
other
kind of
YouTube
so.
creators.
Yeah. So I've definitely been reaching out to a couple channels that I've been watching for years. One is very heavily based on guitar and amp stuff. But the thing is that, like, we'll bring them on and we're going to discuss some of just their kind of life stuff, but also just like what goes into the making their YouTube. And
Right.
obviously these people, like, they don't focus on cameras, but this certain channel, they use an A7S III. They definitely know their camera gear. They definitely know all the tricks and how to edit. And like, they've been an established YouTube channel, maybe 1 million subscribers for a long time. So they're going to have a lot to bring to the table because they're still a creator, regardless if it's based on that. And that's what I want to do, is just kind of heighten the awareness of all these other creators that are out there. And I'm also in the middle of trying to talk to one person who has kind of a travel and like Disney kind of background, and I don't know what else I'd call them, like Route 66 Disney-ish kind of stuff. That probably just gave it away, but the last thing on their minds usually is like talking about cameras and stuff. But maybe this is kind of a fun outlet for them to be able to do that, because I'm sure they get questions all the time, like, what camera do you use and what lenses do you use? And like, they are not focused on that element at all about
Right,
being a
and it's just
creator.
their
So
users maybe are inspired by them, and they wanna do the same thing that they're
yep.
doing. Doesn't necessarily mean they're gonna go off and start talking about cameras, but they wanna know what kinda gear does it take to run and do a channel like theirs. And, yeah, I think it's interesting because, like you said, a lot of these guys, some of them might even be more knowledgeable about camera gear than
Yeah.
I am or you are, but they just don't like talking about it. They don't like they don't have a channel surrounded by it. So,
Mhm.
um, and I think another thing that's really great about this stream is that it's going to encourage all the viewers that are watching, like, hey, maybe there is a niche for me. Like, we might have somebody on there that you never knew. Wait, that's a niche on camera. Like, this guy is making
Mhm.
a living off YouTube doing that. I don't know, just stuff like that. I think it's
YouTube is
really
a
cool.
YouTube is a huge platform with lots of different things and lots of different niches. And the one thing that everyone in those categories have in common is they all sit down, they record videos, they edit. I mean, maybe some people don't edit their own stuff anymore, but everyone here on this platform creates the work that they show. And I think there's a lot to be said about kind of learning the behind the scenes of some of these people who are creators. So now
Brad said
maybe
he missed the
we
stream
will.
last week, and he's excited for the Sony ZV-2. Well, whatever it's
Sony
called, Brad.
ZV-1 type, yeah, right.
Sony ZV-1 type. We
I'm gonna
we
quick
were
highlight this one too. Yes, the GH6 is still fire. Um, I think the most people, the people who are complaining about it are people who want to film themselves that are YouTubers. And this camera doesn't really mean the way they built this thing. It's not necessarily a point at yourself YouTube vlog camera. It's not a vlog camera. It can
no.
be, but it's just like it's a filmmaking camera. It's
Right.
got very big pro grade like tools built into that camera. So
I mean,
I don't know.
it pretty much has every other feature known to video other than autofocus. I mean, it's pretty
Mhm.
much a miniature
Yeah.
cinema camera that is a true hybrid. Like, so, I mean, it is a beast. It's added a lot of features. Mondo Bites or Armando Ferreira did a great video on it and really did a good overview of how it is pretty much a miniature
Hmm.
cinema camera. And the dynamic
At,
range, no, you're not going to get as great dynamic range as your Sony A7S III, but
not many cameras
it's
do either.
it's not everything for things, so
No. Yeah,
yeah.
it's and that's the thing, is that when you start saying filmmaker and autofocus, they're gonna go, "Pfft, we don't use autofocus. Like, people are pulling focus and like doing that manually. That's not, so they don't care about
I will
autofocus.
say
In fact, they
though,
don't want to use it.
it's change. I think that is changing now to an extent.
Yeah.
You always you're going to get the perfect focus when you are manually doing it. And for B-roll, I still turn off my Sony a lot of the times because I want to make sure I nail that shot. I'll get it in focus, turn it off, and then repeat the step again with the same motion to try to get that exact shot I want.
Yep.
But there are a lot of, even people behind the camera can really benefit from autofocus, especially in these different industries like wedding shooters or people who are super running gun. And I think they're even starting to notice these on documentaries and such like that, where you got one chance to get that shot in that same exact like feel and everything. And so autofocus is pretty crucial in those moments. But I mean, unless you have a secondary focus puller there that's like right next to you, But
and if you're shooting on a gimbal, I mean, there's a lot of things why you can't. So I get that. This is a kind of a good point here too. Like the transition speed in Sony's new cameras helps them a lot to have to pull focus. I love that you can change the transition speed on these new, like A7S3 has that. I'm not sure if the A7C has it or if that's just the new menu Sony cameras. So maybe it's just the A1, the A7 IV, and the A7S3.
Yes.
Okay.
I don't think my A7C has it.
Okay. I like it, and like there's times where I forget about it, and I'll do a video, and I'll like pop in, and I'll pop out of the thing, and it'll just instantly do it because I usually put my thing to really fast transition speed. So when you're doing stuff like this, you get that just instant thing. That's not because sometimes slow transition speeds make the camera look bad, but also slow transition speeds make the camera look good if you're like exiting and entering. Yeah, I mean, so it's more forgiving too, which is cool. So I tend to a lot of times do like tap focus on stuff. Like if I'm doing B-roll or orbits, that way you just boom, you lock it, walk around. Because sometimes you put it manual focus, and then all of a sudden I always put peaking on there, so I get red shows up on my object, and like you'll notice you'll go too far, and I left my focus point, and depends on how shallow depth you have, but stuff too. But yeah, that transition speed is nice. Oh, he does say the A7C does have it.
See, I never changed it on my A7C, so but now that you mentioned that, I know yes, it does because I have it set to like 5, the fastest speed, whatever, because
it's
of
cool
the same sort of thing,
Well, the cool thing too is that like some of these Sony cameras have these like transition speed things too, and they also have it built into the white balance. You can actually slow down your white balance shift so that if you go in and out of a room, it doesn't just instantly change, or like it just gradually changes, so you can make it look less obvious that you're using like an auto white balance. That I mean, I don't do. Meatball. I pretty much always lock my white balance, but
Meatball. Hey, these days are dead. I'm curious. So if you were certain that the A7C has it, does that mean that you use it or you have used it? Let me know in the comments. I'm curious. I'm actually using an A7C right now, and I'm planning on doing a video in the future of that. Kind of shows the color comparison between the A7C and the A7S3, just because to see how you can blend those two footages together for people who want to know that. But also I wanted to do like a year follow-up. It's getting close to me owning this camera for a year. And, when I got my A7S3, I was like debating on, well, do I really need it or should I just stick with my A7C? And I honestly think most people could probably just get away with like something like the A7C and be perfectly fine and have like really great autofocus, really great color, because those are the main differences between the A7 III and the A7C, and it in a nice size. And when you get this sweet small rig cage with the grip feels really great. And even Kyle said he really likes the feel of this grip. It feels better than the A7 III, and sometimes I even almost prefer it over the A7S3, but that's a whole nother topic there.
I mean, Lizzie Pierce just put out a video today too, talking about her favorite camera, and hers still was the A7C. So, and that was comparing the A7R4 and the A7S3. So, sometimes there's something nice about the like simplicity of that camera, and not using color profiles and using auto white balance, and having a full frame camera that just looks really good. That's compact. So, A lot of times when you have cameras like the A7S III, you're using S-Log3. You're using all the features it has, which makes it more complicated in the long run, and you have to do a lot more in post to make it, work. And so, I mean, there's times where I've filmed videos just in standard profile, and weirdly enough, sometimes I get comments that are saying like, "Oh man, what color profile are you using? Your grade looks great." And I'm like, honestly, all I did is standard profile. I fixed my highlights and shadows, maybe my mid range a little bit, and maybe bump a saturation or two. So
I film weddings and use it all the time. It's great for 60 frames per second, slowing down the footage. It looks like it
yeah,
was in manually pulling. So, the camera doesn't shoot 4K 60, so you're shooting, I'm guessing, in 1080p 60 a lot. So, and that's the other thing. Like, I think sometimes people are like, "Oh man, if I'm gonna shoot in slow motion, I gotta get the A7S III because it's got the 4K slow, 120 and 60." And I mean, yes, it looks nice, but sometimes you got to weigh in like how often are you going to be actually shooting slow motion, and is it really worth the little bit of a bump in quality, because the 1080p is a little soft on the A7 III and A7Cs, but I mean it still looks pretty good. So
yeah.
um,
One thing I've noticed, Paul, once the A7 IV came out and only had that 4K 60 crop or no crop, I could care less about the crop. I started going back to 120 a little bit because I personally like the look of 4K 60 better, unless you really need 120 for
right.
whatever reason. 120 will definitely make it look like you're on more of a gimbal, and it's definitely less shake because it's just slower and it's smoother. Uh, but now I'm just like trying to set my camera apart again because now the other camera does 4K 60, and I'm like, well, mine does 120, so
I got to justify that I
Yep.
spent like an extra $1,000 on this camera, so I got to use it on
Mhm.
my 120 all the time.
Yeah, but no, it's nice. And that's the other thing too, is that I'm still waiting to see what they're gonna do with possibly an A7C2. If they did, I would think they're gonna start putting more functions like that, but we'll see.
There's rumors that they're actually going to be coming out with an A7CR or an
So,
A7RC.
so what are they gonna put, like a viewfinder back on it or something? Like a
Well, that's funny that you say that, because like you're like, yeah, you're not gonna have a photography
um,
centered, and you're gonna have that little cruddy viewfinder on it. I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, that's interesting. That's a weird rumor. I feel like they would just be better to keep going on to a version 2 than try to make it a. I think with it being so compact, it it is good. And if they could just figure out a way to put the A7 IV guts into a smaller camera,
mhm.
I mean, you have no need to do an A7CR or A7RC, because I mean, with that 33 megapixels, it's perfect for photography, and you have the best of both worlds. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's my because when I love using this camera for photography, even though the viewfinder is not the best, but I use a mixture of the viewfinder and the flip out screen when I'm shooting.
Mhm.
It's like half and half. So it just depends on what
I
shot I'm going for.
I honestly I feel like I've used my viewfinder on my camera like maybe 4 times ever. I don't use it a lot. I feel like to me I mean, I use peaking all the time, focus peaking, so I always see on the screen what's in focus. So a lot of times I'm not using that viewfinder anyways.
If that was the
Um,
case for me, it would be if I was you and that was how I shot with my A7S III. At that point, I'd be like, I want an FX3,
yeah.
but I like the
Well,
size of that
they
body.
also I have my button set up too, where if you like push down on the toggle button, it zooms in like 4 times or something like that. So I can also really dial in my focus just from that. So, but also a lot of these Sony cameras, like you just you know pull the you pull the shutter halfway down, and this thing actually hits focus pretty darn good.
Oh, it does, yeah.
Most of the time, it locks in what you're intending to lock in on, anyways. So, like my street photography video, I'm just like, oh, yep, click done. Because it's just you see it lock in the thing you want. Every now and then you'll see it go to the side to something else, but I mean, if that's the case, then you just tap the focus on the screen and then hit manual focus or something. So But yeah, most of the time I'm sitting there using the screens anyways. So Rebel Hike says we look like we're in good spirits. So I'm a little rushed feeling today because I forgot that we were switching to 8 o'clock for tonight, Paul. And I had so I left work, dropped off, or I had to pick up my wife's mom from the airport. Then I did some errands, and I went and grabbed some food, and then I looked at my phone and it was like 8 o'clock. I was like, I have an hour to get home, and it takes 20 minutes to get home, eat food, get ready, get this thing set up in here. I had my studio was kind of a mess. I had just filmed a couple videos, so I had all my table out. So I started this stream just kind of all like a little adrenaline rush, trying to get everything good to go. So
what time did you get off work today?
4:30, but I had to get over to the airport, so which is just half hour down the road for me. So
hey guys, just tuned in. Hope all is well. Squid Paws. It is going well.
What's that name mean?
Squid Paws. I don't know. It sounds cool. Different.
Yeah.
Yeah, I this is my last week with my job, so you and I will be in the same boat starting next week, where I'm not going to be able to shoot as much of my videos at work. So if you guys don't know, I shoot a lot of my videos right now on my lunch break at work, and sometimes after hours I just stay a little bit later, or I get like 2 15-minute breaks throughout the day. So during one of my 15-minute breaks, I'll run in my studio and take my, get the shots that I want, or get the B-roll, or I might get to work a little bit early and just shoot some of that stuff. And then the benefit is I can edit during the day while I'm waiting for a ticket to come in. I just usually like sit my laptop in front of me and just edit away until like either a kid walks in or I get an email with a ticket. And I got a promotion to a new job, and I'll be in a cubicle, not with my own office. So I'm going to lose my studio space that's next to my office. So I got to literally on Friday, I'm going to be packing up everything. I have like my big drop down, like, screen, my 107-inch paper backdrop. I'm going to pack it all up, take it to my house. I'm either going to put the paper backdrop on this wall or like this one over here. And then, I got another Godox light. I got like a ring light that or RGB ring light that I use.
That room's gonna get full, Paul.
Yeah,
might have to do some giveaways or some for some sale posts or something.
yeah, I don't know. I gotta figure it out. Yeah, I definitely don't need a lot of it, but it's hard. Like the Godox is 150 watts, and I never really use that much for YouTube stuff in here, but sometimes when it's nice to be able to have a light that can get that bright and powerful when I'm doing client work externally. So I probably will keep it. I might end up putting it all in my closet for having like a client rig set up where I can leave all my YouTube lights where they are, and then have like a client work stuff where I can just have that separately, so I don't have to worry about taking this stuff down. But yeah, I don't know.
Or you can just aim one up at your ceiling and just let it bounce as a light. I do have another question here, Paul. Good to hear all as well. Has there been any update on the ZV-2? So the only update, it's going to be a ZV-1 type camera. I don't think it's necessarily going to be a predecessor to the ZV-1. I think it's going to have some new features, and it's going to be maybe a slightly cheaper version of the ZV-1. But that's really all that's out there. They said it would be something announced, I think, in May or June is what Sony Alpha Rumors was showing.
Yeah, so we were thinking it's either going to be a cheaper version where it's just maybe not as much features as the ZV-1, or it could be a model that will kind of fully replace the RX line. So maybe a higher end model that's like $1,000, like the old RX line. But I mean, with the ZV, it was a hot seller because of the price and features and size that it offers. So if they can maybe have it be still pretty darn good, a little bit less features and even cheaper, they might be able to sell more. So we're thinking it could be something even cheaper. So
yeah, it could be a like 1080 camera. I don't know. We'll see. It's just something that has been, the reason it gets rumored is because they're showing patents when they put in a patent, it generally has like a number, and it's kind of associates the same number as other cameras in that kind of category, and that's how they kind of know that there's a new version of that coming.
Right.
And then there's always some kind of leak of someone that knows something that says, "Oh, it's going to be a ZV-1 type camera and maybe budget option or something." So
we can't give you any other details than that. Yeah. Rebel
Rebel
Hike
Hikes.
says he's
go ahead.
nice by the airport, and then he said, "I hope a freight train. I hopped a freight train. Wow, you hopped a freight train. Nice."
He said he's got a killer drone shot.
Yes, of downtown.
I had one that was pretty fun when Paul, I did a video, you've seen it, where it was when was this? Like April of 2020. I went down to downtown Minneapolis and I just filmed empty streets, and I took the drone over the city and over the Target Field, like where the Twins play. The video makes it look like there's not a single person in downtown and it's like a ghost town. Obviously, that's a little bit of an editing trick. It's called patience, waiting for people to get out of your shot. Because I was definitely going for a video where
who has patience?
It was definitely supposed to be very artistically empty and fitting for the vibe of.
Did you really have patience when you were at Disney with me? I mean, come on. No. I guess you're pretty patient, I guess.
I was ready to rip little kids' heads off at that time.
If you haven't seen Kyle's last video, it's pretty cool. He did like a around the world with a ZV-1 on the Crane M3, and the Crane M3 is like pretty much made perfectly for the ZV-1. I mean, and Kyle goes into more detail on it and has a lot of shots of it at 70 millimeters, which you can't really shoot handheld very much unless you're on a tripod because it is so shaky. But if you have something like the Crane M3, it looks a lot better. And I got a lot of shots with this Sony 24 millimeter. This actually same setup here. I just used the A7C with the 24 millimeter and got some pretty good B-roll of Kyle shooting with that thing. So I was very happy with the 24, that 1.4, man. It looks so, and it's another example of Sony autofocus. I did not try to get any particular thing in focus, but it seems like all those shots was always focused on the gimbal and the camera, and everything else was just blown out. I think it did a really great job.
Well, it's funny, when I was editing that footage, the footage I had was from my A7S III, the ZV-1, and your camera. Most of everything we shot on the A7 III was in a Cinetone. And just because I wasn't worried about how great it looked or never, I just was like, I want something to look good so I can edit it. I don't want to render S or screw with S-Log or whatever. But I took the ZV-1 is a great looking camera for what it is. It's not going to be an A7S III by any means, but so I had that footage in standard profile. I had your camera in standard profile and mine in Cinetone. And when I was putting it all together, I was like, oh, this all looks good. And then I put your footage in there. I was like, man, Paul's footage in like regular standard profile was the best looking out of the three. And it was just kind of like, I like Cinetone, but sometimes the more I use it, the more I don't like it. I like the idea of a flat profile look, but I mean, you can do that by raising your shadows anyways and kind of shifting your colors. I feel like it doesn't really change the dynamic range, so everything still was looking kind of blown out. Probably should have just shot the whole thing in S-Log 3 is what I should have done, or just standard, I guess. But I like contrast. I like bright, bold contrast, and I'm not really a big fan of faded out looks. So, but yeah, it's just like every time I put yours in there, I was like, oh man, like Paul's camera out of all three of these are the ones that look the best, and he's just running standard profile with auto ISO. And
wasn't it like the A7C? Was that the camera that I shot a lot of those with, or did I use my A7S III?
No, I used the A7C, and that's the thing is that
and in the other part, there's funny.
You were running auto ISO, and like I don't like you. It's not ISO, auto white balance. I hate using auto white balance because I really dislike when you get home and you start color grading, and it doesn't look good, or the color shifts in the middle of your shot. So I pull up a gray card, I hit the thing, or I put it in sunlight or something like that. The problem is that our color did shift quite a bit through the day because it kept on getting cloudy and then sunny. And we started at like noon, and we went to like 6 o'clock on
Right.
day on.
We
So
were,
like my
we were
footage,
like running to the different countries, like we got to get there before day
yeah,
starts.
and that's the problem is that some of those shots would have been way better in that video if I would have had a little bit more time to just focus on it. But most of the time we were like, we have 10 minutes to go to each country and get to the next one so we can get these shots. And then every time you like start getting a shot and you're moving, someone walks in front of you. And then you're like, oh, okay, here comes another one. And you get a perfect one. And then you kind of like bump your elbow on something and you're like, I shook the camera. And so I just kept on having all these takes over and over. And I had one like kind of dynamic moving one where I started kind of aiming up and I was kind of tipping the camera down as I was walking into like something in Morocco. And every time I walked into the thing, someone walked in front of me or like walked out of the like background. And you're just like, stop like walking in my shot. Like no one was there for like 10 minutes. And then of course, when we started filming, then everyone was there. And like, that was one weird thing. And I will say that normally when I say, when you bring a big camera out, people tend to like look at you. And when you bring something like a ZV-1 out, people don't even look at you because it's irrelevant. That couldn't have been more true with that camera because I was just walking with this little gimbal, little camera. No one cared that I was doing that. And they're like, oh, I'll just be in this guy's shot. Versus like if you're popping out the A7S3 on a big gimbal, you start walking through, people are gonna be like, hey, wait, let this kid go here. He's filming something cool. Like, so, but so the shots we got, it was like I had a limited selection and I was like trying to match it to the music.
Right.
And I probably should have shot some more
is,
slow motion, which I didn't do, but
the funny part was I'm pretty sure I was shooting in a lot of slow motion on the A7C, but it doesn't shoot 4K slow motion, so I was shooting a lot of that in 1080. So I was also pretty impressed on how some of those B-roll shots, like when you were shooting the train, and I just like got it under there in slow motion and was just kind of moving it. I don't know.
The whole idea of that whole segment too was just to like, I was gonna put those train segments in between the countries to make it look like we were traveling. But then I was like, oh, it looks so cheesy. It looks so fake because it's clearly a toy model.
Right.
But so I don't know. I thought it was funny. So I put it in there. Funny side note, Paul, like the day after, excuse me, that food I had is getting me. The next day after we left, someone, and I'm guessing this is like an inside Disney job, but someone creatively tagged some of those trains at Disney with like fake graffiti. But it's all like Disney, like Mickey and Goofy, and it's like it's like street graffiti, like you would see on trains, but it's all like Disney characters and stuff. And apparently Disney's just gonna leave it because they think it's hilarious that someone tagged their trains. But the only thing is, like, we were there. How hard would it be to stop one of those things and not have anyone notice it?
Oh, I know.
Those things were long and like, so I think someone must have had it turned off and like someone screwed with it that worked there. Who knows? But sorry.
Hey Kyle, love your channel. Your vids help me get started on YouTube. I just upgraded from the ZVE10 to the A7 IV. Any recommendations for a vlogging lens for a new creator? Running gun and talking head.
Okay.
Well, I gotta say, I agree with this guy. Kyle's channel is pretty amazing. If you guys aren't already subscribed, you got to do it. Definitely has inspired me and kept me in this game longer than, well, I would still be in it, but I don't think I would be near where I am. He kind of, I kind of helped inspire him to grow, and then now he blew past me, and now he's keeping me like in line. So it's a funny game there. But recommendations for a vlogging lens.
I mean, how much money do you want to spend?
Yep.
If it's a lower budget, the one I'm currently using is the Sony 20mm lens. I love this lens. I got it on kind of a sale with the student discount. And I paid like $600 for it. But what is the lens, Paul, new? Is it like 800 or something like that? Or
it's $898, I think.
$898, and it sometimes goes on sale. It's basically the same as the 24mm G Master, but it's a 20mm and it's not a G Master. But you wouldn't know by comparing those two lenses that it wasn't in the same like realm of Sony lenses.
Yeah, I mean the feel. They both are very made of metal. They get the same focus
Yeah.
and aperture ring on it. I mean,
And it's a 1.8, so you can use it at really good like low light option lens. If you're gonna be using that 4K 60 with that camera, you're gonna get a little crop. So having a 20 millimeter is gonna make that a little better. I think that'll still make it like a 35. Isn't the crop like a 1.5
1.5.
when it goes? Okay, so if you can afford to spend like $2,000, that 16 to 35 is a really good option. It's going to be the widest lens you can pretty much get for a full frame lens.
It's gonna be heavy, but
And
it's gonna be good.
yeah, it's a big heavy lens, just like it looks like the 24 to 70. It's the same size, but having it being able to go to 35 is a really good option because now, like when I sit down and do my videos, when I do them back here with this backdrop, I actually use my Sigma 24 to 70, usually at about 24, sometimes pushed into about 30. If I could move the camera back a little further, I would go 35 because I like that compression a little better, but I'm limited on space as far as talking head. But
Yep.
like right now, I'm using the 20 as a talking head, but I'm also that far from the camera.
Yeah, I'm using my 24, and I'm just like an arm length away.
Yeah.
I can touch.
I'm way less than an arm length away from this. But so I mean, if you're sitting at a desk, the 20 is great because it looks like a 24, but it's I'm like super close to it. So that's why vlogging wise, I like this lens. It looks very similar to that 17 to 28 is what it is.
I have the 17 to 28, and Kyle and I did compare it, and it does look even at when you're looking at 17 millimeters compared to that 20, it is wider, but it's not
not
as
by
big
much.
of a difference
Yeah.
as you would think.
Yep. Although
But
that does have a zoom on that lens, which is kind of nice. So
I mean,
that
I use the 17 to 28.
Yep.
Kyle got the when I bought the 17 to 28, the 20 millimeter wasn't even an option. So, but yeah, if you can afford that 16 to 35 Master, it's great.
The 20 is a really nice photo. Like if you're using it for photography for like big landscapes, and I brought this thing downtown Minneapolis, and I could just hold the camera in portrait mode and like get the bottom and all the way to the top of a skyscraper just from across the street. I was kind of absolutely surprised by that, actually, that it would get that much in the frame. So it doesn't have a terrible amount of distortion on the sides. You'll notice that you'll have like street lamps and stuff will kind of tip in, but it doesn't like bow like a fisheye. It is a pretty straight lens for that, and it's super sharp.
So yeah, he was saying that's the lens he was looking at. So yeah, I mean, if you're looking at that lens, I'd say go for it. You can if you got some time. I don't know. The problem is that all the sales, the big major sales are out already. I mean, like Kyle got it for a crazy price. If you can get a student email address or something along those lines, both B&H and Adorama have an education account. So I work at a school, so it's easy for me. I just use my school email address, my work school email address, and I always have discounts on 10% on all Sony stuff. So it all adds up. It's pretty nice. And get that B&H Paybu card, and you can get no tax. So no tax, EDU, boom, two things. That's how I typically roll. So, but you can find some good. That 20 millimeter lens is a really great lens. If I could go back today, I probably would have got that. But I really love this 24 millimeter 1.4. But it's not. Those are two different uses right there.
I'm gonna put a link to the video too if you want to watch later. I was just gonna find it on my channel, but I go through that 20 millimeter pretty well. I like it. That's still my favorite as far as vlogging.
What's up, Metro man? It's great to see you. Now that we're doing no Ken stream tonight, so shout out to all those Drone Brews guys that didn't show up tonight. Thanks, guys. No kidding, but thanks, Metro. It's nice to see you.
Yeah, someone who has a generic account. Sorry, I don't know if you said this just a second ago. The 16 to 35 Zeiss lens is a really good one. I believe it's stabilized, so it's an stabilized lens, but I believe it's an f4.
It is an f4.
It's not going to be great at low light, but if you go watch like Potato Jet's channel, that's the lens he uses most of the time. Is that 16 to 35? Because he has it and it's compact. So,
well, and then you got to remember that like f4 if you're vlogging, you're gonna be outdoors, so it kind of
Yep.
helps. You're gonna have to use an ND filter anyway, and if you're vlogging, most likely you don't care about a ton of background blur because you want people to be able to see what's going on
Right.
behind you.
Right.
Another great option, and I know Kyle and I have talked about this a little bit, and Matty Hapoya, I think recently did a video on this, is that Sony 10 to 18. It's an APS-C lens, but if you zoom that thing into like 12 or
12.
13
Yeah.
millimeters, all the vignetting goes away pretty much. And then you have a 12 or 13 millimeter full frame lens, essentially,
F4.
but it's
Yeah.
stabilized.
Yep.
So
That's
because
a
usually you have to have a
great.
crop factor, but it is,
Yep.
it's, I mean, it's
Well,
for
I
the
was using it
cheapest
on
wide
this.
angle lens.
Yeah, I was using it on the ZV-E10, and my favorite part about that was the fact that you could use the stabilization in the lens and not use the active stabilization on the camera, and that looked good for that. But then also, I was just screwing around, and I threw it back on the A7S III, and at first you're just like, "Oh boy, this thing looks like a fisheye," because it was just like a black frame around the lens. And then I just zoomed it into 12, and I was like, I mean, it distorts like crazy when you go to the sides.
Right.
But when you're doing like real estate and stuff like that, if you're looking for a cheap lens for that, like, man, is that a good option for that? So,
It's,
just
and that's
just
could be,
don't
it could
stand,
be a good
just
option for
don't
him.
stand. Yeah, just don't stand and vlog from the corner of the camera.
Right. Don't, yeah.
And you can see this one has a little bit of, like, it get a little wide at the sides, but that's
Yeah.
just any wide angle lens is really going to do that. But that 10 to 18 one gets a little nuts if you get too much on the sides. So,
I mean, it's if you still have that ZVE10 and you use that as a B cam, and it could be a multi-purpose lens if you get that, and maybe you'll want to get that to start since it's a little bit cheaper. Probably you can probably find it used a little bit better, and then get the 20 millimeter later. I don't know, but either way, I think that you can't go wrong with the 20 millimeter lens, like you said.
Fogel's gonna be in Minneapolis tomorrow. What are you doing in Minneapolis?
He's a truck driver, so he's probably driving through.
Hmm.
He's driven through Orlando before, and we got to sit down and have dinner one night. So
Nice.
and he he picked up a camera from me that I ordered for the EDU discount, so he could get hooked up. Got to go to sleep. Got to work tomorrow. Rebel Hikes, if you're still around or here. Thanks, man. She lets you bring the 670 to 200 GM too. Okay. All right. He
Someone
somebody
from our
Squid
last
Paws
stream. I
was
don't.
like letting you know he liked your intro when you got your A7S3. Oh yeah, that intro was great. I know exactly what he's talking about.
Yeah. So I like having fun with videos if I can. Right now, it's really tough to do that, Paul, because it's winter here and it
So
sucks.
cold.
But I really appreciate people like, well, obviously Josh Yo, who makes like a movie, a gear review into a movie or something. But I like making something fun to watch and then use the gear or like make that as a transition to talking about it. So yeah, if you guys haven't seen that, it's a video on, I don't know what I have it called, but it's the day I like switched to the A7S III. I had my friend who has a replica Back to the Future DeLorean come and bring me the camera from the future, basically. So
We are super big Back to the Future nerds. I'm so jealous that he has a friend that has a DeLorean. I'd probably be sitting in it way too much. I really want to buy one day, but it probably never happen. I'm not that cool. Brad Henderson says he misses me on Jobo's stream, but he's a drone guy first, so that's why. Well, I know it. I don't want to give you a hard time, bro. You're good. I'm just glad to see you tonight. That's why we bumped it up a little bit early, so you guys can join us if you wanted to. But yeah, it's I love drones too. I'm got my Part 107, and I'm looking to get more work from it. But I tried to get Drone Base or something like that, and I haven't got any work from Drone Base yet. But I'm assuming it's because my Part 107 like certificate card hasn't come in yet, and they haven't given me my actual pilot number yet. So on Drone Bases, I'm marked down as pending, so they're probably not going to give me anything until I finally get that number. I'm assuming. I don't know.
Mhm.
Either that or they don't like the Evo 2 because that's my drone right now.
Yeah. Chris Pokes asks if either of us have tried the 90 macro. If trying it at Best Buy counts, then yes, I have. Do I desperately want to have that lens at some point? Yes, 100%. That is one of the coolest Sony lenses ever made, I think. It's a weird focal length. It's a macro lens. I believe it's technically the sharpest lens that Sony makes. It's a fun lens. And Chris and Becky use it all the time in their like B-roll stuff. So that's like, I think a ultimate B-roll lens for sure.
Sorry, I just joined. Which ZVE 10 lens do you recommend?
Eric, what are you wanting to use with it, I guess?
He has two lenses he typically recommends for APS-C. It's the 10 if you want wide, 10 to 18. If you want a versatile little bit of everything, the 18 to 105?
Yep.
Yeah.
And if you want just a cheap, good vlog lens, 16 millimeter Sigma.
16 millimeter, great talking head video. It's like equivalent of like a 24 vlog-ish. I guess you could do it, but
I mean, I used that lens on my A6400 for 2 years. I used it on the ZV-10. I think it's one of my favorite lenses. It sucks that I've had two cameras that weren't stabilized to use it with, but yeah, I mean, even on my other travel channel, that's like my only lens I ever used, and that
drone
came
base
with
is
some,
lame. Yeah, I tried, but I'll take work wherever I can get it. I'm not as cool as you, Jared, where I get my name out there yet. Hey, fellas, back for more questions about the Sony ZV-10. Shoot on, bro. Shoot on. Would it be better to upgrade to the A7 IV? And does the Prime Sigma Trio lenses work with the A7 IV? Which lenses would you get? There's a lot in this question to dissect, but is it a bad camera to upgrade to? No. The question is, do you need to do it yet? I always ask that because, like, just because the camera is full frame and better doesn't mean it's better for you. And so if you're at that point where you feel limited by the ZVE10, then sure, upgrade to the A7 IV. It's a fantastic photo camera, and I like the lens selection where you can get some smaller, like aperture lenses, use that full frame sensor in combination with that, and get some really great background separation and bokeh. But you can do a lot of that with the right lens setup on the ZVE10 too. So I just say if it's limiting to you, then sure, upgrade. If you want some of those 4K 60 and higher, at quality S&Q shooting slow motion modes, and sure, and that's worth it to you, and you have the money to spend, sure. Let's see here. As far as the primes, you have something to say? Add to that?
Well, I was gonna say right now, if you already have the Sony ZV-10, I guarantee you get a fortune for that camera on the market right now because it's unavailable. So people will pay more for that camera used if you find the right spot to sell it. Yes, I believe to me, I mean, it's obviously an upgrade of a camera, but like Paul said, if you have a reason to spend $2,000 on a camera and it's worth it, then yeah, go for it. It's a great camera. The Sigma lens thing is going to be a perfect pair for that camera because that camera will go into APS-C mode. So it'll automatically crop to that lens. So you won't have to do anything. But yeah, your Trio is going to turn into a, what is it, a 24, 45, and a 80? Is that what it would be? 83 or something like that?
Yeah, you're pretty much going to have to add times 1.45 to those millimeters and get the crop factor for those lenses. But you can use them because that's the nice thing about the Sony system in general is any Sony lens fits on any camera and can be used. You just gotta
mostly there's some lenses that won't work on the A7S III because the camera does not have Super 35 like crop mode for video
in 4K.
It's in 4K because it's already a 1080. It's already a 12 megapixel camera, so it won't crop more. If you go into 1080,
clear image zoom.
Yep. Well, I still wouldn't use that because then you lose all the focus functions. But if you use like your active stabilization, it'll crop in most of the way. But there are some lenses based on the backside of the lens that will, like the 18 to 105 in 4K, you can't use it almost at all because it's like a rectangle thing on the backside of the lens that gets in the way of the sensor. So, but the Sigma lenses are always like a round element on the back, so it works out for that.
Great
But on that
lenses
camera,
though for that system. I'd say if you want an all-around lens and you shoot a lot of outdoorsy stuff, you want a 24 millimeter wide, but you also want a fair amount of zoom and you're doing a lot of photography and the mixture of video, I would highly suggest the 24 to 105 f4. It's a image stabilized lens, and you have a decent range there, and it's really great, really sharp. I've heard of a lot of people that really enjoy that lens. It's a good lens to try out because it has a lot of different focal ranges, and then you can figure out which focal range you like the best to shoot with, and then you can still keep that lens for travel or whatnot, and have a really good all around lens. It is f4, but with these newer Sony cameras, the ISO is great. So there's that option. And then of course you have, if you want a 2.8 lens, you can get the 24-270 Sigma. It is a hefty, heavy beast, but it is gorgeous. And there's that. There's also the Tamron 28-75 version 2, which I've heard actually is more along the lines as sharp as the Sigma 24-70. I did a video where I compared mine to my version 1 to Kyle's 24-70 Sigma, and it was in areas it wasn't as sharp. If you were not pixel peeping, you probably couldn't tell as much, but it definitely wasn't as sharp as a Sigma, where the version 2, I believe, is supposed to be able to hold up to it or be equivalent to that.
Right.
The colors are supposed to be rendered better, and the autofocus is supposed to perform better. So if it was me, I would just be going for that G2. I like the lightweightness of it compared to the Sigma, and the autofocus is, just as good as any Sony lens, because Tamron and Sony are like boyfriend and girlfriend on that company. And so that takes care of a standard zoom range. If you want a standard zoom range, 28-75 or the 24-70, that's what we would suggest. Wide, Tamron 17-28, I use that. It's a great lens, but like we said earlier, the 20 millimeter lens is probably the best option for wide vlogging shots. I love this 24 millimeter 1.4, but it's a kind of expensive lens but it is 1.4, and it's great for astrophotography and getting a lot of low light and big background separation. 24 millimeters is my favorite focal length, so it was a given for me. I had to get the lens because I have the 28-75 and it doesn't go to 24 millimeters, so I had no choice but to buy this 1.4 juicy goodness. And
Paul, I just realized too, if I use my remote, my Sony remote,
yeah,
I can make my 20 millimeter into a 24 millimeter.
Oh, you're
Pretty cool. Yeah,
I could make this.
I know. I'm just kidding. I just forget that you can do that. I geek out about little things.
I have that. So there's that Sony remote. So if you shoot an A7 S3, A7 III, I'm not sure what other cameras. It has to have an IR sensor.
Yeah.
You could use that little remote. It's like $30 for Sony, but there's so many brands like a JJC and there's a few other ones that make it looks identical and it functions the same way, and it's like $7 or $8. So you want a cheap remote for your A7 S3. It's a good way to go.
I just paid the $29 and got the Sony one for that one. I had a couple cheap ones and they stopped working, Paul. So
mine's been kicking it, and I just throw it in my camera bag, and it still is somehow functioning.
If you guys are doing a lot of talking heads, if you guys are doing talking head YouTube videos though, and you use Sony, or I'm sure Canon, everyone's got a remote, go buy a remote. For me, I love this because you can change like your ISO, you can change your settings from your remote, which is kind of
fun. I like to sit there just going, that's great.
And like when you're doing those, YouTube, those YouTube video thumbnails where you have to you have the 2-second timer on the remote, so you can hit the 2-second timer, go, and get the remote out of the frame before the camera takes a picture. Although if you ever see some of my videos where I'm actually in the thumbnail, I probably still have the remote in my hand because that's just.
Brad Henderson, man, he's been contracted to do aerial photography for downtown St. Louis for St. Patrick's Parade. That's cool. Oh, by the way, guys, if you are on for all of our I know Kyle's not going to mention this, but I'm going to do it for Kyle because he just enabled super chats on his channel. So if you feel like you want to support him and buy him a coffee or buy his food, and if you super chat, we will definitely make sure to get your question answered. I mean, we're going to answer all these questions probably, but if you want to quick pop that, way for us to see that really quickly, he enabled it. We haven't had one yet, but he hasn't tested it out yet. So if you want to be the first super chat on Kyle's channel, hit him up. But anyway, I'm not that cool yet, and I'm still pending on my. I just finally hit 4,000 watch hours on my channel, so I applied for the YouTube stuff just for super chats alone, really. But I figured if YouTube's going to play ads on my videos anyway, I might as well walk away with a few pennies every year. All right.
Honestly, though, Paul, I do want to mention though, like pretty much, like literally every penny I made last year went into my channel. Like I'd made a decent amount. I made way more than I ever expected on affiliate links. I kind of got lucky with that ZV1 accessory video doing well.
Yeah, when you told me what you make for affiliates, I was like, "What you make? What?"
Yeah.
I mean, pretty much, I make enough money right now off my affiliate links to pay for my music licensing for my YouTube videos, pay for the streaming software that we use for the stream, and for my I pay for a domain for my paulfeinberg.com domain and email address. I pay, so it covers all those things, which pretty much covers my bills that I have to fork out all my gear stuff, but the basic monthly bills that get deducted right now. So
You're lucky on that domain. I want to get. I'm not going to say the domain name because now I don't want someone else to buy it. But there's a domain name that I really want to get, and it shouldn't cost much. But there's a $4,900 like whatever company owns it basically put like a $5,000 reserve on it. So I have to pay that first to get the domain.
that's just
I'm
crazy.
I'm just like, this is why you don't search to see if your domain is like your domain's there. Because if you search it too much, like people are going to take note of that somehow and like buy it up and try to ransom it off to you. So I actually, there is a super chat that just came through, Paul.
Really?
Yeah. Does it show up in our... Sorry, I think the super chats might actually oh no, it does show up in our feed. So real quick, guys, this stream goes to 2 channels. It goes one to mine, one to Paul's. So that's why we post everything on the screen, because if you're asking a question from my channel, it's not going to necessarily show up in Paul's channel.
Right.
So like I try to answer on both channels if there's a specific question, because it's so tough. It's the way we try to do it, and I think it's interesting trying to stream through 2 channels. So
yeah. Super chat for 6. Hey, he didn't have a question. He just said, I want to be the first to super chat on Kyle's channel. A generic account. What a great, what a great name.
Is that going to be changed at some point, or is that like a name? I want to know more about the name. Is there a story behind it? Yeah. I mean, if you're not hitting that like 100 subscribers, and you like once you hit 100, you can like get your like YouTube URL name, and sometimes I feel like when you rush to do that, you better hope that your name is going to be relevant. But like I immediately on my other travel channel picked our name, and then like 6 months later, I'm like, I wish I would have changed it to something else, but you can't change them either. But a generic account is kind of funny.
18-50 fanboy in here.
It's a good camera, or good camera, good lens.
Good lens.
That is a I don't know. There's some of those APC to go back to that trio of lenses for the A7 IV. I just kind of wanted to add to that. What's really nice about that trio of APS-C lenses is that they're all 1.4 aperture lenses. I don't know what the crop does to that aperture necessarily, but all 3 of those lenses are going to look awesome on the camera and super sharp. That 30 millimeter lens is also one of the sharpest Sony lenses on Sony camera, like ever. I use mine all the time for like thumbnails and stuff like that still.
Evan
So
Mowers in the channel. What's up, man? So this guy is one of the guys that started the Scott McKenna 30-day challenge with me and Say Park. And he got some really good content. He's a Panasonic shooter, and so he knows that how to shoot good videos without relying on autofocus because he's a real pro. And but no, he's got some really great real estate stuff. He's got some fantastic interviews, some little mini docs, does video production full time. So Evan, you got some great content. He said, "Yo, are we upset that the D8.6 didn't improve autofocus, or are they just pulling it all out of their R&D into maximizing the Micro Four Thirds for professional cinematography, the black magic route?" Great live, guys. And yes, I mean, they're pretty much saying because pros like you use the Panasonic system, they don't need to improve their autofocus because you just shoot good stuff without it anyway. So, but yeah, I don't know what they're doing sleeping on. If they would just literally add autofocus, they would please a lot of people, and they would get a ton of users switch over. I mean, for those of you who don't know, I don't know if any Dobo people are here, Ken just switched back to shooting in the Sony system. He bought an FX3, a Tamron 28-75, G2. He bought an A7 IV. He is just going all back. He texted me and said, "I'm sorry. I feel like I just didn't want to admit it to you because you kept giving me a hard time about about leaving Sony and not coming back." He's like, he said he did everything in his power to try to prove me wrong that Sony was not the way to go, and he said he wasted a ton of money on it, and he prayed to the Sony gods and asked for forgiveness, but he did. He was
to add on to that point too. Ken's also the kind of guy who doesn't give a crap about the camera he uses to film his content. He is more worried about the drone that he's trying to show you guys or the cameras on those things. And it just so happened to be whatever worked for him is what worked for him. I think some of his B-roll that he shot in the last year or two is like one of the best B-roll product shots I've seen in a long time. Granted, I know he's using a lot of things like sliders and motorized stuff, but that camera that he was using, was he using like the GH5 for a while or something?
He was using he only used the GH5 for like his vlogging style, or the GH5 II for vlogging stuff because it had the better autofocus. But he used the S. He had a bunch of S5s, and now he's selling all his S5s and just going full back Sony.
Okay. I mean, that's cool. He'll the nice thing about for him doing that is he'll jump on a bandwagon of being able to add some Sony content to his stuff, which is very popular right now anyway.
I mean, and he was very impressed with how easy it was, how easier it was to grade the new S-Log3 footage versus he was used to shooting the A7 III. And
S-Log2 is not fun.
It was just painful, and he got S-Log3, and he's been getting really great results out of the color grading. I mean, he prefers shooting in log for all his stuff, and he said that the Mavic 3 just really matches well with the FX3 and the Sony colors. So he's been really happy with that.
Just gonna throw this one up, boy. You guys go find the channel and do some subscribing. I just looked at his channel too. I subscribed myself. Looks like he's doing the Casey Neistat course. Did you see that, Paul? The like Casey Neistat film school course.
I did not know if it was going to be worth it to pay for it, but I did see it. Yeah, I didn't. I don't know.
And then also he just dropped some coffee for us, Paul.
Yeah, he did. Look at that.
I'm gonna buy a monster with it though because I don't like coffee.
He's a sugar-free monster. That's what he buys.
Occasionally sugar if I need to, but last time I had a sugared one, it was in Mexico, and it was the only one I could find, and it just like I took a sip and was just like, Holy crap! Like I forgot like how much that hits you.
Let's see here.
But
What's
yeah, if you
Brad
go
say?
go check out his site.
Would you suggest sticking with Sony lenses if you have A7 IV to take advantage of the new breathing compensation? Of course,
Depends on the line. It's only available right now on certain lenses, but I
but
would
at the
imagine
same
they'll
time,
take some.
those are really the only lenses that have huge focus breathing issues. Like this
That's
24 millimeter
true. Yeah.
1.4 has an issue with focus breathing, and you can see it how it comes kind of zooms in and zooms out while it's focusing. That's I mean these are really the Sony lenses are the ones that have the biggest issues in my opinion. So
Mhm. To me, they're not so bad still though. Like most of the time, a lot of these focus breathing things is like if you're talking doing this kind of stuff, the
right,
camera will just slowly do this in and out thing. And like these wide angle lenses are gonna always show it more where it looks like it zooms in a lot because it has to change that focus point, obviously. But I feel like there's a couple lenses like the 85 that have some like big time, like constant back and forth zooming breathing, focus breathing. So that'll help for that. But
Cody. I
right
know
now,
they make remotes for the Canon system. I just don't know. I'm not a huge I'm not update on all my Canon gear, but I know they make them. So yeah, you can find them on Amazon.
teach me how to generate. Oh, sorry. Let me just add this to the screen. Honestly, I post my videos and YouTube does what it does.
Yep, if they
Um,
have them on mine, YouTube does what it does.
I don't know I've for sure seen wrong things said on mine. I had a travel video, Paul, when we were at Disney, where some stormtroopers were talking to each other that I got on video, and the language that it like auto captioned to was not good. And I got some comments on that, and I'm like, I had no control over that. So
Right.
there are some programs out there. I can't remember what they're called. If you go check out Donna Didit's channel, there's a video on his channel talking about the closed captions
If you
where
wanna
he
pay
pays
for it, yeah.
yeah, he pays like $10, $20 a month, and he can actually like review it, type in his own. But like this company will look at it, and he says most of the time he doesn't even have to do anything because someone literally physically checks it, and then you can review it and then add it. There's probably some function in YouTube that you can do it at. I just I honestly post my video and it just generates. So
We are currently using, Restream.io for our streaming service. I used to use, StreamYards, but there was just some things like transitions and some of the features just didn't line up for me, and Restream's been better. I think the audio even sounds way better on Restream, and it's not crazy expensive. The only downside is we can't shoot 4K right now, so
which I think we might I might just right now I think you've been paying Paul for this thing, but I might just chip in and just we'll upgrade to the next one. I think having some of these better guests on here makes me want to upgrade our
yeah.
stream a little bit more. So there are some 4K options that we could do for basically free if we're using certain things, but then we're not getting the graphics and the chat and everything. What I really like about this program is that we can stream it live on both channels. Everything comes into this program. That's pretty cool. It's a
So
really
yeah,
user
there's an
friendly.
option to even like export the audio so you can send it to like a
Yeah,
a podcast or podcast type of setup, which we are considering doing for the new stream as well.
yeah.
But the really the main thing, like I can do all the graphics and everything through OBS. That's no problem. I could get all that stuff. The main thing is it's way easier when you have multiple people and guests in the stream uh, when you're using these software like Ecamm and Restream and all these, because you can just literally copy a link, send it to your guest that you want to come into the stream. And when you're doing stuff like this, especially when creators are kind enough to take their time to come and join a stream, you want it to be like as easy as possible to just get them in there, do the thing, and leave, so that you're not wasting a ton of their time trying to troubleshoot or use Google Hangouts to make the video calls, and then you lose some quality there. So with this, it's just easier. And I know Restream is I know that CamLink Ecamm is a great option too. It's just it's a little more expensive than the software, but it is only on Mac. But for Kyle and I, it's not a big issue because we are Mac fanboys. But
there was a couple things I wanted to quick. Someone will ask, is the gimbal worth it? For certain cameras, 100%. I use mine all the time. I use the Weeble S and the now Crane M3, which is becoming more of my favorite. But the Crane M3 is still limited with certain lenses. You can't put like my Sigma 2470 on that because there's no way it's going to hold it. But it does surprisingly does hold some pretty big setups. The RC2, yeah, someone else posted the answer to that too.
generic account.
Oh, is that what it was? Okay, yeah. The RC2 is a pretty good one too. I believe there's some functions in there if you use your smartphone that you can do some tracking.
If you have the module, and then the
If you have the
module is like
module,
another $150.
Yep.
So funny story. My buddy, I don't know if you, Michael Hankus, the guy that owns the Reformed Film Lab, we had him on as a guest a while back. He told me that he's like, I got this RC2 gimbal, and I'm not going to do anything with it. So do you want it? I'm like, yeah, I'll take it. Because when I originally I was like hesitant, like I'm like, the Weeble S does everything I need. But when I started comparing just the two Weeble S and the RC2, and it's like, the RC2 is a little bit more steady, even though the difference is very small, and it's a little bit like built more like a tank, so it might last a little bit longer. So I'm probably going to take his RC2 and try it out, and then if I, most likely I will probably end up liking it as much as the Weeble S or a little bit more, and I'll get rid of the Weeble S probably, but we'll see.
I've used one. My friend has one, and I've used his. I mean, they all work. They're all nice. They hold everything that you want. It's a good middle range, mid-sized gimbal. I kind of liked if you're doing a lot of like underslung stuff, the Weeble S is where it's at because it just has that second handle that you can do. I like it. It's compact. It's light, and it's a very smooth gimbal. The RC2 is just as good. The underslung mode is a little weird to do on that one. You have to turn the thing. I don't know. It's
Unlock it.
It's like unlock it, and but I mean
honestly,
they're both good.
Probably would end up going the route of getting another handle on it and just using it. Like
you could do that too.
Yeah.
What else is questions? So someone did say you can generate. You can. Whoops, that's the wrong one. Well, it's the same person. He's saying that you can change the closed captions. You can edit it in YouTube. It sounds like
you can, and if you open up in YouTube, you can edit them yourself if you write them out and script them
out. Here's a loaded question. Best advice for a newer YouTube channel. I'm gonna go with the one that no one says first, Paul. I'll say it, and then you can take yours. Have fun. Have fun with it.
I was similar thought, but like pretty much, if you don't enjoy it if you don't enjoy the process and you're only doing it for making money or the subs, don't do it. Just save yourself the time and hassle. In order to stick with it, in order to grow fast enough, in order to make great content, you kind of have to enjoy the process. So don't do it for the money. Don't do it for the free stuff or hoping that you can get a channel that's big enough to get free stuff. Just you got to do it because you really enjoy doing it, because it is a lot of time, especially when you're just starting out. It's going to take you a while to figure out how to edit a video that fits your audience, how to, and it takes, you get faster as the more you do it, but you definitely invest a lot of time for little views, little watch time, little subs, little money, everything when you're up front and for quite some time. I mean, look at it. You got to look at Kyle. All right, his channel is growing. Yes, he's double the size of me, and he started out smaller, and I was about closer to 1,000 when he was at like 200. But he's skyrocketing, but he's still not like, it takes time for him to grow. I mean, yeah, I think his content is stellar. It's amazing, and it's on par with a lot of these other creators that are 100,000 subscribers and up. But it's he's got to stay consistent and upload, get on a weekly upload schedule, and get content out regularly. And it's hard when you have a 9 to 5 job. And even though he's his wife and him kind of have different schedules, and so they're not spending a ton of family time every single night, it's still hard to find that time and to make YouTube. So you really got to love what you're doing, because every free second you have, you got to go, oh, I got to do something tonight. I got to finish editing this. I got to go shoot this video or whatever. So
well, I mean, like the typical answer that you're going to get normally is like, consistency is your best friend in YouTube. The more you're consistent you are, the usually better your channel will grow. The problem with consistency is that it has a tendency of like taking over your life at times. There's times where you just don't have any time for it, and you have to figure out how to make time for it. And looks like your light went off there, Paul. So I mean, like I get to points where I set my goal was I'm going to do a video every single Wednesday, which eventually turned into Thursdays. And then eventually turned into, well, I'll do a video next week. I didn't have
turned
time
into Fridays, then it turned into like, well, I'll just get it done whenever I get it done.
Like, be consistent as much as your health allows you to, and your like well-being. Like I work at a hospital. I work in a very busy discharge pharmacy. We're doing lots of like vaccinations, and I'm honestly just like, I'm burnt out, but I'm not burnt out from YouTube. I'm burnt out from work. And like I get home sometimes and I just don't want to do anything. So it's like pushing me to like feel like I'm burning out doing YouTube, because I just feel that like my regular job has just burnt me so hard that I'm like, I just want to go home, lay down, watch TV, not do anything. So it's consistency only gets you so far, as long as you're not like wearing yourself thin. Have fun with it. Put yourself into your own videos, because most of the time the channels that grow are for the reason that people like watching the people who are putting on the channel more than the content. And that's not to say that the content sucks. It just means you watch certain channels because you like the people that you're watching.
Right.
If you don't like the person you're watching, you can care less if their content's good. If you're like, I hate this guy, you're not going to watch that channel. So like the more you can put yourself into your video, you're almost like selling yours, like who you are as a person, as an entertainer. That's going to help you a lot. And like classic examples, just go like watch a Peter McKinnon video. Like more people subscribe to that guy because of his charisma and like that character that he is. So
I mean, a lot of people don't even care about cameras and watch his channel, because that's the kind of guy he is. And if you can somehow make your personality shine where people don't even care about what content you're creating, they just want to watch it, you're golden. And I think I would say the other thing that you should do is find, if you can, find somebody that you can kind of, I don't know, I say accountability partner, like a YouTube accountability partner or something, but finding somebody like that. And if you're lucky enough to find them locally as well, where they can maybe even help you with shooting at times. I know that like, Kyle's flown down here a number of times, and it's like, oh man, when my videos are so much better when he's with me, or vice versa, because it's just so much like, I don't know, it's relieving to have somebody else help you with shooting some of the shots, or giving you like, oh no, you should probably do this better or whatever, in the moment, than like trying to do it all on your own. So
yeah, that's definitely, I would say, like clearly network. Like if you guys all, if everyone's on like Twitter or, Instagram, whatever, like Instagram, I like try to write back to people. It's hard because the folders and mail get buried, but go on Twitter and like follow your favorite creators, like follow people who are in the same realm as you, or same kind of characters. And you'll start seeing that like some of these big creators, like Twitter has this weird thing going now where it's almost like people are retweeting other people's stuff, but really all they're doing is liking their posts now. And Twitter's being like, they'll show you, hey, this person you follow liked this post. So it's almost like they're retweeting it, but they're not. So then you start seeing, oh, hey, look at this person. Like I've met so many different people and different channels based off of like big creators liking posts. And then you find these people and then you kind of like, I don't know. It's a network. YouTube is definitely a big network. Not what's the word I wanted to use, Paul, that a community.
Yeah.
And the one thing that everyone has in common is everyone makes videos, tries to create, always tries to be creative, probably a little bit of burned out. So everyone's got everyone's back. And it's like clear when you see people like I don't know if you guys watch Terry Warfield, but he just was let go from his job. So now he's trying to transition to like full-time YouTube. The amount of praise and love that went that guy's way in the last couple weeks is crazy. It just shows you
and
like
I think he even just great. I mean, the funny part he's got some big like Sony sends him cameras, and he's not a large subscriber channel by any means, but it just goes to show as well. It's not always how big you are; it's about the quality of your content and just the community that you're in. And it's he knew a lot of people grew to love him as a creator, and they're like, "Yo, Sony, send this guy some stuff," and Sony listened. So,
well, there's times where people will put a comment out. Like I know Cody Blue put out a comment the other day, like, "Hey, is it worth buying blah blah blah?" And I'm just like, I know the answer. I could say the answer, but instead I was like, "Yeah, dude, check out that video Terry put out. Like, he literally has this exact question you just asked." And then like you start seeing all the different people like jump into that tweet, and it's kind of fun just being like that little like median for like I could have answered it, but instead I brought him into it. Now Cody Blue follows Terry Warfield and likes his stuff, and who knows? I mean, it's just like sometimes you create weird connections even by just sharing other people's stuff, and that's what's really cool about that. So if you guys are like on Twitter and stuff, hit me up and follow me and Paul, and we
very
like
much
to
on Twitter.
we like to share stuff as much as we can.
We answered this a little bit, but we are total Mac nerds, and we both shoot, edit, and Final Cut. So
Yeah,
we are Mac all the way. We can't
I
leave
am
it.
Mac because I am Final Cut.
Right.
I was PC when I was doing other stuff, but I like Final Cut, so I'm using Mac. And honestly, I haven't put 2 seconds of thought behind the difference between the two since then. So
I've never heard of Riverside before, but poop.
Ecamm was nice too. We were thinking about that. I know like Jared Spink uses Ecamm. It's a little bit more expensive. Does 4K. There's more features, but we'll see. Yep.
Yeah, use notes because you're always gonna like, think of a video idea or something, and you want to make sure you remember what you're doing. And I know this has probably been said before. Get good music for your videos. Just I started out trying to just find a bunch of free royalty stuff on YouTube. Not only do you waste a ton of time, but then you don't get great quality music. So just invest in it right up front and go get either I love Epidemic Sound because I love 80s feel. 80s pop is like my jam, but Artlist also has a lot of great stuff on it. Those two you can't really go wrong.
Yeah.
So just get good music to start off. Yeah.
It's amazing how many like I don't know why, but I've had some videos where people they don't say like, oh hey, thanks for the video. Most of my comments are always thank you for doing this video, big help, whatever. But then every now and then you get a comment that's like how long did it take you to find that awful music? Like if you can even call it that, and it's like, why would you even bother taking the time to write that? Like, who cares? It's but that just shows you like sometimes you want to find good music because there's people who will hate your stuff if you use a bad song. So, but I would say, write down notes like he said, even if it's just like video ideas too, or like when you make mistakes in videos, you have to like move on. You can't try to perfect everything because you'll never move on otherwise. But just like note that like you want to see progression in your videos the more you do it. It's not like a practice makes perfect thing because perfect doesn't exist, but like you always want to try to improve on your last video or relatively improve. Like maybe you put out something that sucks and it sucks, but you just need to move on. But
Hey,
I always do.
if you can get involved with your girlfriend shooting your channel, that's awesome. That's like bonding
Yeah.
time, you know. I need to get my wife into mine.
Just don't talk about camera gear when you're not doing that stuff then. Yeah, what I did a long time ago is I made a list. I just had a lot of downtime one day and I was like, I'm gonna make an entire list of things that I want to make a video on. And just like a lot of times you do literally what that idea says, and you're like, boom, I can cross that off my list. But then maybe sometimes you're like, oh, this maybe gives me a different idea, but it's the same kind of thing. And a lot of times when you get to each week, especially if you're trying to be consistent, like right now this week, Paul, I haven't done a video yet because I worked the weekend, but I'm thinking like, what do I do this week? I don't even know. And you just try to like look around your room, like, have I done something? Do I want to do a review on a slider? Like, so you get stuck and you can't think because you just get brain blocked. But if you make a list one day when you're just totally nothing doing, sitting on the couch,
Exactly.
you might think of 100 ideas that you can be like, I'm going to do that this week. Because you will definitely, as a new channel, you're not necessarily niching down. You're trying different things to see kind of what works. And that's to give me your best bet is like make those crazy long lists of everything that you could possibly do in a video on, and then just do it. And don't worry if it's like an old product or something too, because people search products regardless if they're new or old.
You also want to try to do searchable content, especially being new, because that's, I mean, to be honest, it is hard to make it as a vlogger starting out, especially because you don't have any audience. Most of the videos aren't searchable, so you got to be making like the best darn vlogs ever and rely on people like sharing it or the YouTube algorithm somehow grabbing it and sharing it out there. So you really need to do searchable content, or at least sprinkle it into your content so that people can find you. So.
And on top of that, I would say check out TubeBuddy. It's like TubeBuddy. TubeBuddy. It's a program that I use and I don't think Paul uses. And
I used to. I need to get mine added.
You can actually check you can type in like a keyword of what you want to make and see. It'll literally tell you, are people searching for it? How does it compare to other people in your genre? Is it going to be like is it way too competitive? And how does it rank against your channel's like typical views? And you want to get it so it says like good or excellent, obviously would be great. But there's times where I've done a whole video, edited everything, I'm uploading it, and I start key searching it, and I'm like, damn, this video is going to tank because I didn't even think about looking at ahead of time. I just made a video, and it has like no search results. No one has the video, so it's going to be obviously competitive. But there's times you put up a video you think you're going to do awesome on, and then you watch it do nothing because. And that's to say, like, if you had fun making that video and it's something you're proud of, who cares? Like, people are going to eventually find it, especially if your channel does get big at some point. But if you can look for searchable stuff, that is going to clearly make it easier for people to find your stuff. And the easier they can find your stuff, the more likely they are to follow your channel, subscribe, like it, share it, whatever. So check out TubeBuddy. If you're under 1,000 subscribers, I think it's like $4.99. And honestly, I'm still paying $4.99. I'm over 1,000 subscribers, so I don't know. They clearly know I have more than that because I get they tell you your milestones and how many subscribers you're at, and which is kind of fun watching that, where you can open your phone, hit refresh, and watch your video counts go up and your subscribers kind of go up. It makes it kind of fun. It doesn't make it like stressful, and I guess it could if you're refreshing and like, oh, I only had one today, but it's a really good tool, a resource to use to help your channel grow. And also, like, it has a YouTube thumbnail checker where it'll tell you in the search result that you have, it'll show you every video that's already on YouTube that ranks, and it shows what your thumbnail looks like compared to those. So you can kind of be like, my thumbnail doesn't stand out. I'm going to go back and I'm going to do a new thumbnail. But it's weird. Like you look at like titles. I always thought I have to have the perfect title in the world, but sometimes it's more about keywords than it is titles. Like my last couple of videos, I think I just did one like Crane M3, I didn't divide it by the camera. I didn't do anything like that. And then it searches like that. Even if you put in the rest of your title later, as in you could have a 2-sentence paragraph in your title, it's still searching for that one word because that's what's telling Google to search for. So it's a really good tool. It doesn't cost much, and it'll help make your channel grow. Plus, you get those cool notifications that you can post on your Twitter every now and then.
I think if a video flops, leave it up. I mean, you spent all that time making it, editing it. I mean, if a video flops, try to change the title, try to change the thumbnail, and sometimes multiple times. I mean, I see it all the time with big creators. They'll change the thumbnail out multiple times to see if they can find the right one that just gets more clicks. Just try it. It can't hurt. I'm probably gonna do it again on one of my last videos. Is the Q&A that Kyle and I did. I'm probably just gonna go through and keep changing the title to different questions that we asked in the video just to get a whole nother set of people after it's been up for a little while. So it's just you spend the time making it, you spend the time editing it. It doesn't hurt to leave it up.
Yep.
You might get a few views off it. Sure, it bombs, but it's all part of the process.
Yep. And going through your analytics too. I mean, like, don't obsess over analytics when you're a new channel, but you can go through and see like where it flops, where people click away, see what's going on in the video there, and make changes if need to for future. So videos that flop sometimes are good tools to help you like change or improve your videos. Or the other thing I would do, if there's a video that you really liked that didn't get views, once you get to the point where you can have the community tab on your channel, which I think now is actually at 500 subscribers. I think they just changed that. Repost it. Like, I can't repost a video from a year ago on my normal part, but in my community tab, I can say throwback Thursday to the video I did a year ago. And then like, boom, you might have a whole new audience that never saw that video because they caught you early and just, they haven't gone back to your videos. So, videos flop. That's fine. I mean, it's going to add to your total number of videos on YouTube, which is ultimately going to help you anyways. So
it takes time. But
we're getting long in this we're at what, hour and 40 minutes right now, Paul?
Well, I said it takes time, and about time.
Yeah,
it is. It's going a little bit longer today. I mean, it doesn't feel like it because we usually start 30 minutes later, but yeah, we're going. This is about when we normally try to end the stream, even on a regular night, and we went a little bit over tonight. But I like answering all you guys' questions. I like interacting with you guys. So I don't like just cutting it dry off in an hour when there's still a lot of questions to be answered and a lot of people in the stream. But I think it's a good time to call it a night. I appreciate everybody that's been hanging out with us tonight. And we've had this YouTube conversation a little bit. If you're into YouTube and or looking into getting into it, just get into it. Just start, create, and if you don't like it, stop. And if you really enjoy it, keep going and don't care about the numbers. That's what I gotta say. So, anything else you want to say to close us out, Kyle?
Thanks you guys for watching. Thanks for those start of the super chats. They're nicely appreciated. We can put money back into these channels to show off more stuff for you guys and answer more questions and whatnot. So it's great. Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, you've heard it here. We will see you guys all next week. We'll be streaming not at the same time, probably back to our regular 9:30 p.m. scheduling. Threw Kyle off for a little bit today, but as he was rushing back home.
Yeah,
but,
and tentatively right now will be Alpha Shot next week. That might change if we have a few people that said they wanted early March to start. None of them have actually finished booking the calendar. So if that changes, you guys will know. We'll post all the Creator Camp stuff, or all the Creator Camp stuff. We'll be posting the thumbnails early, so you guys will have 3-4 days notice. And it'll be really fun to join because you'll be opening up Q&A to people who we bring on the channel as well, which can be kind of fun for them, I think, because they don't generally do live stream stuff. So it's you can ask questions to me and Paul, but you can ask questions to the guest, and it'll be kind of fun to be able to get to ask. I mean, like I'm going to be fighting for you guys just to ask these people questions too myself. So it'll be fun. But we'll tentatively be Alpha Shot next week, but then starting the 9th, we're going to be switching to Creator Camp for sure. But if we get something booked before that, we will post that and let you guys know. So go ahead and follow us on Twitter and all those places, and Instagram if you want. Should we tease the video again, Paul? Should we tease the video?
Sure. We'll close with this video and leave you with this just juicy juicy video that Kyle made. He did a really great job with it. Go ahead and roll it, and we will see you guys in the future.